earlier in the week, and I won't spend a great deal of time today. Thanks to the majority leader, we're going to have 2 votes this afternoon on items that I think are representative of critical problems in our country. The first is a vote on an amendment by Senator Feinstein and myself that eliminates payments to the largest refining and oil companies in this country to blend ethanol, which they have honestly admitted and sent us a letter and said they don't want. The second is on whether or not we'll subsidize with federal tax dollars additional pumps to use ethanol. The reason the votes are important is because the way we get out of trouble as a nation is a couple of $1 billion at a time. We have a federal mandate that says X amount of fuel has to be blended with ethanol every year. And that's going to rise up to 22 billion gallons in 2015. So there's no reason for us to pay somebody to blend it when they already have to. And we've seen the shift in the industry from small entities to the very large. When this program started, it was about less than $1 billion in cost. It's now going to be, on an annualized basis, around $6 billion. And when we're running a $1.6 trillion deficit, we need every penny we can get. And so I'm thankful that this has been brought up, but it begs the larger question. Actually, there's 2. One is, can we trust markets, real markets, to work more effectively than Washington mandating and dictating policies? And throughout our history, if you look at it in total, no government can ever do any allocation of scarce resources as well as a market can. The markets aren't perfect, there's no question. They make mistakes, they cause occasional shortages, but overall, in the long run, markets work much better than a bureaucratic Soviet-style mandate of what we'll do and what price we'll pay for it. The second question that it begs is, what is our country's energy policy? We send $250 billion a year outside of this country for oil and gas liquids and natural gas. That's $250 billion that we could invest here and pay for our own resources. We are the only nation in the world where our resources are owned by the citizens and our own government limits our ability to utilize them. CRS just finished a study that shows that the oil and gas reserves in the United States are greater than that of Saudi Arabia, China, and Canada combined. So the question is why aren't we using ours rather than sending money overseas and undermining our own economy and not creating jobs? The projections is if we would truly utilize our resources, we could create close to 190,000 jobs a year in the exploration and energy business. Without subsidies, without tax credits, that's what would be the result. And when oil's at near $100 a barrel, and we continue to send the money out of the country instead of go after our own resources, which are plentiful, we have to ask the question, what are we doing? Final point I'll make is when you go and buy ethanol blended gasoline, and you look at the price and you see, well, here's regular gasoline that has no ethanol in it, and here's ethanol blended gasoline that's about 20 or 25 cents cheaper. It's important the American people understand that you need to add $1.72 to that to get the real price you're paying for that blended gasoline. Because that's what your government has put in to the pipeline in the way of loans, grants, subsidies, blenders credits, and taxes on imported ethanol. So even though it looks cheaper, it's not. It's about $1.40 more when you look at all the costs that have been taken from you as a taxpayer, put into the pipeline, then given to the special interests in terms of what we'll have and where we'll have it and when we'll have it. I support ethanol as an alternative fuel, especially now that it has 7.5% of our market. But the best way for ethanol to survive is for it to stand on its own 2 feet without subsidies, without us spending dollars that we don't have to get something that we're going to get anyway. And so I'm extremely pleased with my discussions with Senator Reid, and I'm very thankful for Senator Cardin as well as Senator Feinstein. Senator Feinstein's been working on this for a long time. She opposed this when it started, and she recognizes that what we've actually done is really not help ourselves that much. We have markedly increased the cost of food. We can say it isn't, but 40% of the corn crop this last year went for ethanol, and corn's at historic highs. And when you look at a poultry producer, or a beef producer, or a pork producer, or a lamb producer, or a turkey producer, or milk producer, or egg producer, what they have been hit with is their largest cost has doubled because of this policy. And quite frankly, America's lucky, because the worldwide demand for grains, given our wonderful farm community and their ability to produce it, is extremely high. And our farmers are extremely efficient. So this policy isn't going to affect farm prices significantly right now, but hopefully in the future, it will bring them down to a more moderate level. You know, 2.5 years ago, corn was at $3 a bushel. And most corn farmers made money on that. It's now above $7, even though their input costs have risen somewhat with the increased oil prices. The farms in our country that raise grains have never been in better shape if they can get a crop. And I know we have areas in the country where that hadn't happened. So I think overall we're starting to address some of the misdirected capital formation in this country by backing off on government picking of winners and losers. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to speak on it, and I would yield the floor. I see the senator from Iowa is here.